Okay, so thank you, Natalie Tolli, for joining in on this election video. Why did you decide to become a board member?
So I've been a member of TOPRA for a number of years and really benefited from the educational offerings and other resources, including the journal. And I thought, as well as giving something back to the organisation, I also felt it would be a great opportunity to get some board experience personally and broaden my overall business perspective as a development opportunity. So it was a little bit of both giving back as well as a new experience for me to stretch.
Brilliant, thank you. And how would you describe your experience so far from sitting on the board?
So I've been on the board now for almost 3 years, and it's been really illuminating to see the behind the scenes aspects of a business that supports members of a profession. We do a lot of practical day-to-day logistics aspects, but there's also a lot of strategic discussions. And I've really learned how a business needs to make trade-offs to come to an informed decision, which is then handed off to be executed by the staff of TOPRA. So it's important to have those really in-depth discussions and come together as a group on a path forward so it strengthens the future of the organisation.
What has been your biggest achievement with the board?
So I think it's been part of the development of TOPRA's 2025 strategy. That was a terrific experience that gave me a chance to think about different scenarios of what TOPRA members would need from the organisation over the longer term. So we had to think about things like what would set TOPRA apart from other member organisations, and how can TOPRA continue to add value to the profession in a world that's changing rapidly. A lot of what we talked about a year ago, we could never have foreseen the situation that we all find ourselves in today with COVID-19, but a lot of the scenarios that we talked about and the strategy we put in place around global connectivity is really important when we're all working from home for months at a time. So really interesting, and I'm glad that I got to be part of that experience to set the stage for the future.
Excellent, thank you, Natalie. And what would you say has been your main challenge or the biggest challenges as a board member over the past couple of years?
So being the North America director, time zones are always a challenge. I tried to come in person to 1 or 2 meetings a year when we could travel, but most of my meetings were virtual. So in order to make sure that I could contribute effectively, sometimes there were technology issues. I had to make sure that I was fully engaged and present at a very early hour for me. So being fully caffeinated was important, but also making sure I had time to go through pre-read documents and be aware of where the North America membership would need to provide input, and make sure that I could chime in at the right time of those discussions. The chair is always very good about making sure that remote participants are called upon during discussions, but it's just making sure that I'm prepared for those opportunities to speak.
And what would you give as your one piece of advice to somebody in TOPRA currently who's considering nominating themselves to be a board member for next year?
I would say do it, absolutely. It's been a fantastic experience, and I'd be happy to speak to anybody one-on-one who wants to know a little bit more about what it entails and what it means. It is a commitment, absolutely, but it's very rewarding, and if you have the opportunity to stand and provide a contribution back to the organisation, I think you should do it.
And any final thoughts that you want to share with the wider membership?
So as I'm the North America director, I do have a special portfolio. There's a similar one for the EU. And the benefits of having a portfolio director like this is that the member needs in North America do have some differences to EU members and other regions. So I was very aware of my role being one that represents a region, not just me personally as a member. And so I had to try to keep that different environment in mind, as well as a number of competing associations in North America that are available. So this was actually a really important part as we talked about the 2025 strategy, to make sure that the value proposition of TOPRA for North America was brought forward and a part of that future vision. At the same time, though, the North America Director is definitely a part of a wider team of diverse professionals. So I got to use a lot of my general regulatory perspective as well as my North America perspective in the discussions, so that we could come to that well-rounded conclusion and alignment as a board. So it's a little different being a portfolio director, but very interesting, and again, trying to see those trade-offs that happen behind the scenes.